Hello, Facebook Live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Mr. Sewing Machine's Educational Classroom. I am so excited tonight. You have no idea. First of all, we've all had a crazy week, right? But we made it. We're here, the craziest week ever. But to me, this is the best way to end a crazy week. We have Diva Extraordinaire in the building with us, guys. She's right here live. I'm so excited about it. Everybody, welcome Monica Tete from That's So Monica to Mr. Sewing Machine's Educational Classroom. Yeah! Woo! Let's get the party started! Thank you so much. I know this week has been crazy. And just thank you so much for coming out here, after the week that you've had, after the week we've all had, and just being willing to come out and share with us. Monica is going to talk to us today, guys, about fashion design. She's going to talk to us about sewing, how she got started. She's going to tell us just all kinds of tips and tricks for those of you who are always inquiring about, hey, I want to do fashion design. I want to start a fashion line. I want a career in the fashion industry. How do I get started? That's a question that we get here at Mr. Sewing Machine all the time. And I thought, who better to ask and glean from than the Instagram influencer herself, Diva Extraordinaire, Monica Tete. So we're just going to just jump right in. I want you guys to ask questions. You're calling in, you're inquiring about all kinds of stuff with sewing. Hey, the next 20, 30 minutes, let's just chat about it. Type your questions in the chat box. Any questions that you have for Monica, go ahead and type them in. We're going to get those questions answered tonight. Okay, and we're going to find out a little bit more about her. So let's jump right in. Monica!
Mia!
All right, for those who are not familiar with you, with your brand, tell us, who is Monica and what is That's So Monica? What is that brand? Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, it has been a trying week. I'm glad that I made it safe here. Yes. I'm glad we all are safe and we're warm.
Yes.
And we have power. That's one. So we're praying for Texas.
Yes.
So first, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Monica, and I want to thank Mr. Sewing, and I want to thank you for taking the time to interview me to find out a little bit more about me. So the That's So Monica brand, or the That's So Monica, I wouldn't even say brand, but I know that that's what it is.
Yeah.
I started sewing about 7-8 years ago. I decided to take up sewing to honor my late mom. She had passed away. It'll be 18 years this year.
Wow.
And I remember the 10-year anniversary of Mother's Day, and I wanted to feel a connection closer to her. Yeah. So I decided to take up sewing, and kind of the rest is sort of history. As you know, I work for the city of Dallas. Mm-hmm. I work in events and marketing and project management. And through the love of sewing, my job was able to see that I was interested in it, and they wanted to do sewing events. So hence came up Project Sew.
Yeah.
And that's actually where we met.
Yes.
Was Project Sew. Yes. And from Project Sew, which is an in-person sewing meetup where we meet up once a month together, and we just have a fun time talking about all things sewing and sewing together. And I think it was a great opportunity to see the large group of women and men that actually sew in the DFW area. From that, I started an online sewing group called Sew Your View, where once a month we create a pattern and we sew it, and we just have fun doing all of that stuff. So that's been good. And I'll say this, the That's So Monica was just kind of like, oh, that's just Monica. That's so Monica. Yeah. Everyone has always said that to me. So it kind of just blended itself in that. But through my love of sewing, Mia, now it's been about 8 years that I physically have been sewing, but I've always done design. I've always done into fashion. I used to do a lot of fashion shows in college and some of the places that I've worked, and worked with some designers, especially being from New York originally. Myself and 3 other business partners decided to start a business called Sorority Wear. And it's a play on a sorority. As you know, I'm part of one, but we wanted to give you your sorority box.
Yes!
Thank you so much support.
Thank you.
Tell you about, sorority and kind of what we do. We're an online sewing paraphernalia company that offers sewing paraphernalia for the sewing community and those who are interested in that. So we wanted to share that with you and say thank you for your support.
Absolutely. So guys, all right, there's so much to unpack here. Let's just unpack everything that she just said, okay? So, as she stated, Project Sew is where we met, and that was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
The amazing thing is that Monica has a gift of pulling people together. So she created this event called Project Sew through the city of Dallas, and when I tell you, it is the best thing ever. COVID came in and kind of just wiped everything out, so it's been a minute since we've gotten together. But as soon as this pandemic is over and we can all get together, and you're in the area, even if you're not in the area, you've got to check out Project Sew. People have come from Louisiana, from Oklahoma,
DC.
from California, from DC. They've come from all over to attend this all-day event where us guys and gals get together and we sew all day long. It's amazing. We teach one another tips and tricks. We have the mature ladies who teach the younger ones, those who've been sewing 30 years. They teach us various tips and tricks. It's a blast. When this pandemic is over, you gotta check out Project Sew and come hang out at Project Sew. And then there's Sew Your View. If you like to sew with the community from ground zero up, it's her gift. I call her a serial entrepreneur. It's her gift. She created Sew Your View. Sew Your View is on Instagram. You can go at Sew Your View, and every month they're sewing a different pattern, but everybody puts their own spin to it. Put your own little
flavor.
Yeah, your own little chic style to it, your own little bit of fire to it. And it's amazing. There's all races, all ages.
All sizes.
All sizes. It's amazing. Genders. Male, female. It's amazing. So you want to definitely check that out. And then her latest venture is Sew, S-E-W, sorority wear, which, as you can see, can you guys see that? Can you guys see that? You got ladies of all ethnicities, all sizes. You got your plus size girl, you got your skinny mini, you got your Latina, your Asian, your Caucasian, your African. You got all the sisters in the group supporting one another, being a part of the community, which is what it's about.
Yes.
And I just love it. I probably shouldn't do this, but I want to just take a quick peek at what, hey, Soror, would you guys look at that?
She's a soarer now.
Look at that! I got my book. You guys, oh my gosh. Okay, I know I'm not supposed to do this.
No.
My love language is gifts and surprises.
Yes.
Even though this is an actual surprise because I did order the box, but still, we were in a pandemic. There was stuff going on. Monica went home for a while. She's from Ghana.
Yes.
She went home for a little while, and I wanted to pick my box up live. So we just couldn't get together. But now I got it. Would you guys look at this? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Look, stickers. Oh my gosh. Look at guys, look. Okay, the stickers, a magnet here, a pen. So I gotta make me a bomber jacket, my little sorority jacket, and attach my patch to it.
Yes.
My patch, yes. Look at the t-shirt. Oh my, okay, all right, I'm gonna stop because oh my God, would you look? Look, I got a tote bag. All right, I'm gonna stop.
Yes.
Look, all right. Thank you so much, yay.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you for supporting us in sorority wear.
Let me get back on task.
Yes, let's get back on task and talk about what we're here to talk about.
All right, so you got into sewing because you were honoring your mom. You wanted to feel closer to her.
Yes.
I know that you've got designers in your family.
Yes.
Right? At home,
Yes.
you've got family members that design.
Yes.
Okay, so you've always been around it.
Yeah, so I'll say this. So my mom sewed, and I forgot to mention this earlier. My mom sewed for years. I remember when I was younger, she would sew our dresses, she would sew wedding gowns and bridesmaid dresses for family, even our uniforms.
Right.
And also my uncles. I have uncles that sew, grandmother, aunts, a variety of people. We come from a lineage of sewers. And being from Ghana, West Africa, mostly everyone sews. That's sort of the trade that you take up initially in grade school, and then from there you decided what you're going to do. So I remember my mom would be sewing and I would be cutting the patterns, but I never thought to take up the interest in sew. I would sit and sketch the ideas that I wanted to do. I would come up with different fashion. I would play in her fabric, but I never thought to actually pick up the machine and sew. So it was sort of like, it was this yearning that was calling me, and it just flowed right easily. So I do come from a family of sewists. Even my dad, he would sew, and I would see him taking part in that. So that's always been a thing for me.
That's amazing that, to me anyway, that you got all of this family and everyone around you, but it never kind of dawned on you to jump in it because you're such a natural at it. One of the things I love about you, and maybe we can have you back to talk about it. Guys, Monica, if you go to her Instagram, that's Sew Monica. That's SEW Monica. If you go to her Instagram and just scroll, to the previous years, you will notice that Monica has a gifting to mix prints. And I'm telling you, it's a gifting, because when I try to mix prints, it's a hot mess. It's just a mess. But she can take two of the just the most opposite prints and put them together and make something dynamic from it. And I tell her all the time, I can create a class. That's what I love to do. Turn things into classes. I love to teach. So it's what I love to do. I see that as a class, and I tell her all the time, oh, my brain is going, maybe we can have a master class and you come in and be our guest teacher and you teach how to mix and match prints.
You know what? That would be awesome. I'll say this, and guys, I'm going to turn the tables just a little bit. Mia, number one, she's an encourager, and and a believer, and she has always encouraged and believes in me and tells me things. Monica, you should do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not a teacher. No, I don't have the time. No, I can't. But 2021, especially 2020, once COVID hit and you saw death, and you saw people dying around you, to me, it was like, why not? Yeah. So I want to say yes. I will join. We will have a master class. Yes, I am going to be teaching. Yes, I'm going to take up opportunities that I typically have either been fearful of or just shied away from. So yes, girl, we are going to pattern mix, and everybody will be pattern mixing too.
You gotta go check out her Instagram and look at how she mixes prints. It's amazing. She'll take a lot of the textiles from her country, the traditional African Ghanaian prints, and they could be totally opposite. One could be like turquoise and the other one could be like fuchsia pink.
Yes.
And you wouldn't think to put them together, or bright orange or white, or just something just that you wouldn't think to put together. And she can mix them, and you are just like, that outfit is drop dead. Like, it is beyond. You know what I mean? And everybody can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it like that.
Well, you will.
I will, because I'm going to take a class. We're going to put the class together, and I'm going to be right there front and center learning how to mix prints. Okay, so here's my question. We here at Mr. Sewing Machine, so often, we get calls several times a week. And the question that everyone is asking is, I want to be a designer, or I started a collection, my own personal collection, or I want to start a fashion line, or I want to get started in the fashion industry. But it all ends with, but I don't know how to sew, I don't own the sewing machine, but my goal is to start a fashion line, or be in the fashion industry, or I want to be a fashion designer. Where do I start? At the end of it is always, where do I start? That's the question that we get here so often. And I want you to tell our viewers, what are the tips, the basic foundational things that they need to do to start, or to get their foot in the door for fashion design, or to get into the fashion industry, to create a clothing line, or to be a fashion designer? What tips would you give them, those that are interested in starting a collection or being a fashion designer, starting a fashion line?
So first I would say congratulations on taking that first step in understanding or deciding that you want to go into a career of fashion. The second thing I would say is you want to at least have that basic knowledge. I remember my sister is actually coming out with a clothing line, so I've been helping her behind the scenes as well as family members that actually do have lines. So just with that history and an understanding, the first thing you want to do is have some knowledge of sewing, at least. I'm not saying that you have to go out and get a sewing machine and learn to sew, but that is important to at least have that basic knowledge, because that would save you a lot from money. It'll save a lot of money, and it will also save you time, because you're able to either produce your samples on your own. I think for me, and even in talking to my sister initially, when we met recently, she was like, I wish I would have learned to sew when you were saying that, because she's putting together her line, and though she's coming up with the designs, she doesn't understand the technical piece of how things go together. And
the garment construction. Okay.
And in terms of the garment construction, and just knowing that, this is what you want to reproduce, it takes certain steps. You have to have a tech pack. There's certain steps that need to come into play with the actual garment, and you want it to be reproduced. So if you want something to be reproduced, you don't want to have too many steps, because that's going to add to your cost as well. So I would suggest to anyone that's interested is first understand the basics of sewing. Know exactly what it is that you're trying to make, trying to do. If you're able to take sewing classes, definitely do, because you can create your own samples first. And then I would say start looking at the different fabrics, learn about that, because that's going to play a hand, because there's certain fabrics that can mold and you can print mix, but then there's certain fabrics that you can't make certain things with. You can use linen for a variety of things, but if you wanted to make a winter coat, you may not want to use linen. You need to use a different type of fabric. So understanding that and understanding the flow of the fabric and how it feels and how it can be manipulated, that's definitely one. Number two is when you look at your sketches, even if you don't sketch, you can always find someone to sketch your idea. You can get some inspiration from wherever. I usually like sketching, and I kind of just sit outside and just think about Fashion Week, and then think about things that I know that I want to wear. But you want to look at the sketching, and you want to look at the different types of sketches that you can make and how it can come into play into your overall design, I would say. Number four would be research. And as you start to learn, you don't have to sketch. If you don't know how to sketch, that's fine, because someone can always do that for you. And that's part of the research that comes into play. But I would say you want to go in and at least understand what it is that you're trying to make, for one. And then the research helps, because there are certain companies that can do everything for you. They can sew, they can sketch, they can actually build your tech pack, they can get all of your pieces, they'll do the entire garment construction and put together your whole entire line. And then there are places where they're just going to do the pattern, and that's it. And then you have to actually go and get it to a sample done, and then from the sample, you'll get your packs from there. So if you have a little bit of the knowledge in the sewing, you're able to do your own samples.
And save that money.
And save that money. But I do believe that for those who are in fashion design school, they'll learn these particular things. But I think for the home sewist or anyone who's just at home and saying, I have this passion, I didn't necessarily go to school for this, where do I begin? I would begin first with learning to sew, or at least learning the basics of sewing, and definitely the basics of garment construction. And then work to build on what it is that you truly want to make and where you want to see your line going, because I think it definitely will come into play from there. And then of course it's funding. It's very expensive. I mean, that's the first thing. It's truly expensive, but you can cut costs in certain ways if you're able to create your samples yourself. Of course, overseas is going to be cheaper, but making sure that you can connect with those producers and garment constructors there is going to be the thing for you to know. But you also are going to need a pattern. That's another thing. So if you have that basic garment construction, you may not be able to know how to draft a pattern necessarily, but you'll be able to kind of look at everything and say what's working, what will not work, and what are some of the pieces that you want to take and put into the garments that you want to create.
So
I said a lot.
No, that's good. That's what we need. That's good. what our viewers and me, that's what they're asking. So I have a comment and a question. The comment is, so you're saying that it's important to have an understanding of the basics of garment construction, because if you outsource your sample patterns and your pattern maker and all that to someone out of state or out of country, if you have the basic knowledge of garment construction, you will be able to know if that pattern was constructed properly.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
And yes, you will know if the garment was constructed properly, and also the terminology. There's certain terminologies that we use within the sewing community,
Right.
within the garment construction community, design community, that your designer, whoever it is that's going to create your samples, will know.
Right.
So you need to at least understand that terminology if you're trying to explain, well, I want a certain button here or a pocket. What type of pocket?
Right.
Do you want? Is it a felt pocket? Does it flip out? Does
Right.
it go in?
Right.
A variety of different things that you need to know, because there are times when they may tell you something and you say, oh yeah, that's right, I want a pocket. And then when you get that sample, everything is wrong, and you wasted time, you wasted money, and now you're having to go back and forth. And then,
do it, yeah.
of course, there's sometimes a language barrier at times, so if you know some of the terminology, it helps with that.
Yes, very true. Very true, that's good. Okay, and the question I had was, do you think it is necessary? Like, you gotta do this. Is it necessary to go to fashion school, to go to design school in order to start a fashion line?
Ooh, that's it's one of those questions where someone says, I'm an entrepreneur, but I didn't go to college, right? Or like P. Diddy.
Right.
He didn't finish school, but he did have the basics and the street knowledge to get him where he is.
Right.
So I say it's twofold. It's a yes and a no.
Okay.
Because I think with the school knowledge, you'll definitely have that information, and they'll be teaching you all of those particular things. However, I've heard from people who've gone to fashion school, fashion design school, and they don't know anything. They don't even know how to even sew or you get the basic terminology, because it's all truly dependent on the school.
Right.
But then I know designers who were in a whole nother field, accounting,
Right.
and they just decided, you know what, I've been good in sketching, this is what I want to do, I picked up the sewing machine, or I picked up this particular craft, and I have this talent. So I say it's 50-50. It's always good to have that knowledge, but with the internet now and YouTube University,
Right.
You can get it from a variety of different places. So
Right.
I won't say yes, but I won't say no.
Right.
I just think it's important to try to get the knowledge as much as you can, and it can be from either going to school or from people that are in the industry, or if you have that natural born talent.
That's good. When you mentioned individuals that were in a different field and now they're in design or are fashion designers, I think of S.A. Azenabor here in Dallas. Here in Dallas, there is a Nigerian fashion designer. She designs couture bridal gowns.
Gorgeous.
You have to go to her Instagram, S-A-E-S-E, Azenabor, A-Z-E-N, E-A-N?
Z-B-O-R.
Okay, say it. Get the spelling.
A-Z-E-A-N-B-O-R.
S-A-E-S-E, Azenabor. Look her up. She makes custom bridal gowns, and I think the cheapest is like $15,000.
Yes.
Something like that.
And we went to her showroom.
We went to her studio. We were for the city of Dallas, actually.
Yes.
I was teaching a fashion program for the teens at the city of Dallas in one of her recs that she oversees. And I took the girls to SA's studio, and she gave us a behind-the-scenes tour, and she kind of told the girls her story of how she was raised and she came up and just her whole story. But she was in a completely different field. She did not grow up wanting to be a fashion designer. That's not, what she went to school for. But it was in her heart. It was a passion. And she left school. Did she leave college, or did she finish?
She finished.
She finished college and then realized, I'm just going to just jump out the bridge here and follow my dream.
Yes.
And her dream was to be a fashion designer. and her pieces are amazing.
Amazing. And even like us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I took up sewing, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I never thought that, though, with my job, my day job, that this is what I would be doing. The DIY, the arts, the crafting, as well as the design and the fashion. I never really thought that, but this has been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
So I say if you're passionate about it, there's a will and there's a way.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that are interested, that do not know how to sew, but you're interested in learning how to sew, you can go to our website, www.mrsewingmachine.com, and you can look on our calendar and sign up for our very next Intro to Sewing class. That's for individuals who have no knowledge of sewing. You don't know, what a presser foot is, what feed dogs are. You don't know any of that. Take that class, learn the basics of sewing, and then if you desire to create clothing or get into fashion design, you can then progress to our Intro to Garment series. It is a 3-part series: Intro to Garment, Intro to Garment 2, and Intro to Garment 3, where you will learn what we're talking about: the basics of garment construction, the basics of understanding and reading a pattern. It'll give you a good foundation and teach you how to sew your own, clothing, but it'll be a good foundational springboard for you if you're looking to start a fashion line or you want to get into that field. I don't personally believe that you have to go to fashion design school.
No.
I agree with Mom. I don't think you have to go to fashion design school, but it helps if you know, like she's saying, the basics of garment construction, the basics of putting a sleeve into a top, an inset sleeve, or what basting is, or just flat pattern making, draping. It helps to know all that stuff, and it will be a good springboard for you if that's what you want to do. Oh my gosh, this was good.
And I think about something that you said, because we watched these television shows with the fashion shows, and I remember it was one that came on a few years ago, or like 2 years ago, and all of them have been to fashion school and they decided to apply to this show, but a few of them did not know how to sew.
Right.
They designed, they could sketch, but they went on a show that required them to know how to also sew. Yeah. So they weren't too successful because they couldn't do the basic construction. Yeah. They could sketch their designs, and they were hoping that a seamstress would come to support, to help them, but they truly needed to sew. And those who were successful in the show were the ones who knew how to sew. They were able to get their stuff in time, and whatever else needed to get done by the seamstresses, they would do overnight. But for the most part, they were able to construct their garments. So I think it's important to have that knowledge. And not only that, sewing is a skill. Some people say it's a dying art. I don't say it's a dying art, because in the sewing community, as we start to look on Instagram and social media, you see how many people are sewing. You're like, where is everyone? Right. It's not for me and the girls and the guys, and so we're not grandmamas. Right. Some of us are grandmamas, but we're not just sewing your grandmama moo-moo. Right. We're sewing. I've made this whole outfit that I am wearing, and what Mia's wearing. Yes, we're gonna fashion it for you. And it feels good to wear the things that I made. Yeah. So when someone says, "Oh, that's nice," and I'm like, "Oh, I made it," and guess what? It has pockets. That's the biggest thing that I say. So it's another thing too. So I encourage you to definitely take the classes that are here at Mr. Sewing Machine. Mia's an awesome teacher. All the teachers here are awesome teachers.
They really are.
I would say get into that first, and then if this is something you want to do, fashion is your own opinion. It's relative to who you are. Yeah. I don't ever want, and I don't believe that, well, what you're wearing isn't fashionable. Who says that? Right. Fashion is what you make it and how you are. So I like to express myself through the clothes and the fabrics and the things that I wear. And for some people, it may be a bit much, but it's okay. Right. It's for me. And I would say, if you're passionate about it and you want to do it, go ahead and just full force. And we're here to support. Yeah, absolutely. We are here to support. There's a community of sewers that will support you in whatever you do. Monica and I are a few of the sewers that's over the top. It's a couple of us that are like over the top. We're going to have wings and pepperwings and
stuff hanging off everywhere. And then there are other girls and guys that are a little bit more modest, more simple, and it's okay. We love everything. It's like, hey, I love the wings that you got on that. I wouldn't wear it. I'm not gonna look like I'm flying around, but Mia, I'm gonna saturate your target with my wings and everything because it's my style. Or hey, I love that simple top that you're wearing. I personally would add a string of diamonds hanging off of it, but the simplicity on you is great. So whatever your style is, that's the fun thing about fashion. Fashion, you're able to speak through your clothing who you are. Who you truly are, not what society says you should be, not what the ready-to-wear clothing says you should be, or how you should look. When you're able to design your own clothing, you are able to show the world, tell the world through the clothing without speaking exactly who you are, exactly what your style is. So we encourage you. We encourage you if you want to jump into fashion design, or if you just want to learn to sew, period, or if you don't even want to do garments. You want to sew quilts.
Oh.
You want to sew bags.
Bags, I love bags, pillows, home decor.
Yes.
Those are things that I'm definitely getting into now.
Yeah, Monica has, this was Sisters.
Yes.
Sisters? Monica did this amazing bag. You'll see it on her Instagram page. That got, all, it just went
The
viral.
pillows, the big pillows.
The pillows, the bag, the little leaf print bag. She's also an instructor at Pinterest conferences, makerist. She does a lot. She says she's not a teacher, whatever. All of the brands are calling her to come in and teach Pinterest and makerist and everybody. They're calling her. So she creates just these amazing everyday lifestyle type things, home decor bags. Like she does it all. I garments. I love garments, but Monica can make a mean bag. I'm telling you, a mean bag. So if you're into bag making, if you're into